Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine. This podcast is sponsored by BoomCloud Dental Membership Software, www.boomcloudapps.com, and Veritas Dental Resources, www.veritasdentalresources.com. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome everybody to another exciting show of the Say No to PPO's podcast. I got my co-host on the line. Ben, how are you, man?
Doing very well, Jordan, and yourself?
I'm doing good. I can't wait for next week in California. It's going to be a fun one.
I know. The weather's getting warm. I feel bad for the people on the East Coast. They've been slammed with all these different storms. But one piece of good news on our end of the country is we have a new restaurant at, what is that? It's the Silicon Slopes. You know that new area next to the, the outlets up there in Lehigh? Traverse Mountain? Uh-huh. So they have this new restaurant. It's a fast food restaurant, but I'm a seafood guy. I love seafood. And my son was he was saying where we're gonna go for lunch, and this was last week. I said we're gonna go to this place called Slap Your Face seafood place. I didn't even know what the name was, and he's like, really? It's called Slap Your Face Seafood? And we get there, and it's actually called Slapfish Seafood.
Slap Your Face.
No,
I like Slap Your Face Seafood better.
Yeah, you know, in the South they say it's slap your mama good. You can never say that to a Polynesian because you'll get punched.
You'll get punched.
That's awesome.
That was on the news last week too. Casey from Channel 2 News was there last week.
Yeah,
nice.
They gave out 100 free lobster rolls during the first 2 days. And I was going to go, but I had a funeral. My old congressman growing up passed away, and I had to go to that for the 2 days. But I did go on Monday, and I had the lobster roll, and it was awesome. It was $25, and it was, it didn't fill me up, but it was pretty good. So if anybody's in Utah or in California, I think I have a bunch of places in California too. So it's Slapfish. It's really good if you like seafood.
I love seafood. So maybe when we're in California next week, we can find one.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see, Ben. This episode is a continuation of episode number 19. We were talking before the show, and this has been so far the most downloaded show. Talking about billing, UCR to insurance matters. That was number 19. But on the show, we got our guests, Tessina and Angie. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. And today we're going to have that continuation. And I'm going to start off with the first question. And here it goes. You ready? How can you keep track and run reports of procedures that haven't been billed to insurance?
I think the answer to that is software specific, so each one has their own methods of getting to them, but it's pretty much the basic of if the girls in the back have posted it to walkout, sometimes that happens after things have already been walked out, so that's a report that can be checked. At least on I think kind of a daily basis, if not every other day, and make sure that doesn't happen.
Is it common?
Yeah, I agree.
Is it a common issue to see a lot of procedures that are performed that are not billed to insurance?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's an issue I've seen multiple times in offices. I have them, after we've cleaned it all up, I do have them plan on running it at least monthly. But until everybody gets on the routine of watching that really closely and not bringing patients up, or after they do it, if they have to add something to it, that they inform and communicate with the front office who would be making sure that gets sent to the insurance company. I say walked out, but kind of different verbiage for different offices. But
that's what we call it, walked out, because that's what most of our softwares are calling it, when you walk out the patient. So they're going from the treatment room, they're done with the treatment, and the assistant is supposed to be walking them out to the front where we then, take the payment for the procedures performed. Now, a lot of times in the treatment room, while work is being done, sometimes it's larger than what they had anticipated going into it, or they found an extra, when they got into the one tooth, it opened up and exposed a spot that was hiding on the adjacent tooth. So then they have to do the filling on the adjacent tooth as well. So sometimes these girls are just so in a hurry, not to their fault. We're running behind schedule now because treatment took longer, and so they're trying to hurry and get them up to the front and not always adding on those services that change. We take their money, they leave, and then the girls go, oh, whoops, I have to fix that. And then you have to call and say, oh, sorry, it's actually more money now. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
So it doesn't look
Yikes.
very professional, and it's not a very fun situation to be in. So what Angie was talking about, what should be happening is before the girls even allow the patient to leave the treatment room, they should be going through, checking those procedures, hitting the walkout button, and it's called different things in different softwares, but I feel like it's a pretty common term. And then they set it to complete or hit the walkout or whatever, saying that it's been checked, it's finalized, and there should be no other mistakes. The thing to do, like Angie's saying, is also at the end of the day is just to go ahead and run this report in your software management that will track any of those services that didn't get caught. So to make sure, for one, that you're getting everything billed out to the insurance company, but also that you're, tracking what services were actually done on what patient.
Right.
And able to collect those patient portions too on that date of service, instead of having to call them later or let them know about it later. Mm-hmm. That's a good customer service.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why do offices run into this issue? I mean, I can only imagine that in a dental practice, an individual will have 3 to 5 to maybe even 1,000 responsibilities to cover on a day-to-day basis. But what do you think the main contributing factor is as to why this, why not billing everything out to insurance could be an issue for a lot of practices?
Why they're not getting to it?
Right. Yes.
Go ahead, Angie.
A dollar figure is a big thing. One of the offices I've been in, we ran a report, and there were things in there that were 2 years old that had been,
oh my gosh,
X-rays
wow.
being done. X-rays is a big one, but that's not even billable anymore. So that's just really money thrown away.
Man,
right?
Yeah.
And in some insurance companies these days only have a 90-day filing, so you've only got 90 days to get that billed out to them. So if you've gone, further than that, most are a year, but if you go beyond that, that's not money, and it'd be really difficult especially we were talking about customer service, to bill a patient suddenly for something that was done a year and a half ago that just wasn't billed out correctly or was missed on that. So that's a lot of money that we.
Yeah, I could imagine if a practice has a.
But if you stay up on it and you're running that report consistently, most systems you can default that. It would run it when you do an end of day. You can usually pick what reports you want to run. So whether you do it daily or weekly or monthly, however you do it, right? Just do it so that you're not missing out on that money. That's a lot. That can be a lot of money that you're just throwing away.
Yeah,
you're doing the work. You need to be compensated for it.
It seems like, if practices don't stay on top of that, that sounds like a huge problem, like financially. Yeah. Do you guys see quite a bit of offices forget to do this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just not aware either.
Just not aware that they have to do that.
Well, they're not aware that they can run the report.
Right. Or that they're missing it. And front desk, if it doesn't get communicated between the two, front desk, doesn't go in and micromanage and double check, and did you do anything else? Did you do anything else? Just working as a team where each one, checks and balances here and there and making sure that everything's complete by the end of the day.
Well, I have also seen, Angie's probably seen this as well, but I've seen where an assistant isn't very well trained or is brand new, in her training, and she's not even aware that that was an extra surface of the tooth that they did or something. And sometimes my doctor will come to me later and say, no, that was an MOD, not an MO, like it extended over to the distal. But the assistant, if the assistant's not trained enough, she just doesn't realize that extended over, and she needed to update the code. So that's an issue as well, is that sometimes my doctor, when he goes through and checks the end of the day or the next day, he's like, no, we need to add a surface to that. So again, just saying that the doctor and the assistant have to communicate, then the assistant has to communicate to me what changes are done. I mean, everybody has to be very well trained and then very well communicating.
Yeah.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Sounds like everybody needs to know the codes inside and out, whether you do billing or not.
Yes.
Everybody needs to understand what the codes mean, and that way everybody's double checking everybody's work.
And Ben, is that something you help with? I'm not sure.
Coding, I do provide coding training. I do recommend that offices buy coding books though. So you have Charles Blair's coding book out there, Coding with Confidence. You can get a coding book directly from the ADA. And then there are several other resources out there. But in the end, I recommend to my clients that they pick their top 20 codes, and every week they study at least 2 to 3 of them and make sure that everybody in the office understands what the codes are. Like a limited exam, for instance. A lot of patients come in, you only get 2 exams covered per year. And if a patient comes in for any type of exam, and if treatment's not performed on the same day, I'm surprised that a lot of offices don't know that that's a limited exam. That's a D0140. And if there are benefits available, then great. Insurance will cover it. If not, then you can bill the patient directly for those things. So there's so much money that's left on the table with how practices bill, and it's a function of not understanding the codes, and not everybody understanding the codes. Which kind of leads me to the next thing, Tessina and Angie. When you talk about making sure that things don't fall through the cracks, a problem that you see often in dental practices is that if a procedure is not covered, they don't bill it to insurance. Is there a problem with that? Or should we be looking at this differently in terms of if it's not covered and it is a CDT code, how should we best handle this? What's your opinion on that?
Well, the problem is that, again, and I talk about this a lot, is we've been trained by the insurance companies. So we do what they tell us to do. And if they say it's not a covered service, we don't waste our time with sending out a claim, which, by the way, takes no time because it's an electronic claim.
Right.
So in doing this, the insurance companies are saying it's not a covered service because they're not seeing the need for it. Like, well, nobody bills for this code, so it's not covered because nobody's billing it.
Right.
So if we all said, yeah, actually we are using this code quite frequently, and you bill it out, and if you know if the insurance isn't going to cover it, then you make sure your patient is aware your insurance considers this a non-covered service, so you will be responsible. And then when they say, why don't they cover this? That's what I'm paying them for. I tell them to call their insurance company and make sure they know how they feel.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, we're still the
I've
outcome
done that
is
countless
the same.
times.
Yeah, the outcome is the same. The patient is still responsible. Go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, I was just gonna say I called my insurance companies countless times, letting them know how I feel about their service. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's my comment.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good comment. But that's the thing, is if we encourage multiple people to do this and about the same service, eventually what we'll see is that they'll open that up to be a covered service.
Yeah, a good example I'll give is perio.
Let me give you one little example here. So I've been in dentistry for a really, really long time, but when I first started, sealants were not a covered benefit.
That's right.
Yeah. So originally, and they were saying, no sense in billing for it because it's not covered. And actually, and now sealants are usually covered 100% under preventive work and different things. And actually, years and years ago, if I can say about Linda Miles, she said, no, you need to make sure that you bill, right, even if it is not a covered benefit. And it has, not just over 30 years, but eventually, it came in to where now it is a covered thing, and insurance companies realized how important it is. Same thing with implants. Implants used to never be covered, and nobody ever billed for those either. And now a lot of insurance companies are covering that and giving them more of a benefit for their patients.
Yeah, it's the same thing with perio. It's interesting because 4342, for instance, the 1 to 3 teeth isolated, would you agree that a lot of adult patients, it's okay. It's okay for them to be in the 1110 category, not in 4910, not in perio maintenance, because for the most part they're healthy, and for the most part it's a prophy. But from time to time, you will see several adults where there's maybe one tooth or two teeth in a quad that requires deeper cleaning. And often what you see in those situations is that's never even mentioned in the charts, and it's never even billed out to insurance. So the combination of billing between 1110 and 4342, for the most part, to insurance carriers is unrecognizable. That combination of billing, they think it's just foreign, but the reality is that it should be a very common form of billing, but it's just simply not being sent out. So I have this conversation with my clients on a day-to-day basis that if you're not using the perio codes, you're not maximizing them. If you're doing a bloody prophy on a patient, then you have an issue. You know what I mean? You have to report the things from a legal perspective, but also just to make sure that the insurance carrier knows that the utilization should be going up. So where there's lack of utilization, there's simply lack of coverage, which kind of leads me into the non-covered service aspect of this. So Tessina, you mentioned that practices should be billing non-covered services out to insurance carriers. Now, here in Utah, we finally had our non-covered service law passed, which becomes effective in 2018. But there are 32 or 33 states that have a non-covered service law. So let me explain what this means for those of you that want to know if you have a law in your state that protects you in terms of not being forced to follow the PPO fee schedule for a non-covered service. If you go to the aadp.org or just simply Google dental non-covered service legislation, one of the first search engines will pull up, and this is I think the Pediatric Dentist Organization. You can click on this because the non-covered service applies to every specialty in dentistry, and you can see a map of non-covered services, states that have passed a non-covered service law. The law is slightly different in each state. For instance, some states say that a non-covered service has to be at least 50% of the doctor's prevailing fee. So just make sure that you look at your specific state non-covered service and even consult with an attorney or the ADA on the exact interpretation of that law. But what I do know is consistent among all states is that if an insurance carrier does not cover the service whatsoever, regardless of whether benefits are available or not, meaning if the patient still has any of the available annual maximum available, if it's still not covered, regardless of whatever situation, then the PPO, the insurance carrier or the HMO, whatever insurance plan you're dealing with, cannot dictate to you a discount. They can't force you to take a discount. If they do, you can correct them because they're in violation of their state law regarding non-covered services. But again, you want to make sure that you know specifically what the law states in your particular state, because it's slightly different in each and every state. So, Angie, you're the one that brought this up before the call. Did you have any specific questions there that you want me to cover before we move on to the next topic?
Well, one, I wanted to just make sure that I understood exactly what it meant. In that I had an office from another state call me, North Carolina. They're trying to get it passed in their state. And she had heard that it just come up in our legislation this year. And my brother is a senator, so I called him and found out about it. And he told me that it did pass. But I would like to know, those are the details and stuff that I think we need to go in and look and make sure that we understand what it is in each state.
Yep.
So I'm looking on this website. Yeah.
North Carolina did pass a law here, and even I think on our website, I don't know if we still have it up or not, but there may be resources there on states that have passed a non-covered service law. But the reality is understanding first and foremost that the law is different by state. But the one common factor is that if it's truly a non-covered service, meaning under any circumstance there's no coverage whatsoever, then you can still bill it to insurance and count on the fact that the insurance will reply, and with an EOB that says the patient is responsible for the standard office fee or the billed fee from that office. In the event where an insurance company comes back and says the patient is responsible for $0 or for a PPO discount of any kind, a discount of any kind, then that insurance carrier is in violation of the state law and you can appeal that. Now, one key thing that I coach my clients on is you have to be very careful with these non-covered services. You want to make sure that you educate the patient, kind of like what you said, Tessina. You want to educate the patient beforehand. In the event where the EOB is wrong, you just want to give the patients the heads up that, no, this is processed incorrectly. It's common that it's processed incorrectly. We're going to resubmit it just so that they have it on the record, the right fee that you're supposed to pay for this. And so patients tend to get upset when they get an EOB and they owe less than what you estimated. Creates all kinds of problems. So there's another section of our training where we talk about how to appropriately deal with non-covered services, because in the situation that we're talking about, yes, go ahead and bill it if it's a covered code, but if it's not a covered code, or if there's no CDT value associated with, or CDT code associated with that non-covered services, you may choose to not bill it to insurance. But so there are certain circumstances when you want to not bill a non-covered service to insurance, but most of them you should be, as Tessina and Angie have been saying. So anything else there, Angie and Tessina, that you want to add before we move on?
No, I thought had popped into my head, but I've lost it now. So.
Well,
awesome.
Let me see if I can. I'm gonna mention one more thing, and hopefully you remember what you wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So teeth whitening is a good example. So quick question, Tessina and Angie: does teeth whitening have a code?
You know, I think in offices I've been in, okay, I'm going to have to look it up now.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
I believe that it does.
Yep.
There's an internal
totally
one.
wrong.
Is there an external for arch?
They have every office that I know of has a code for whitening, and it's an in-house code. It's not a CDT code.
Yeah.
So they create their own code, and simply because teeth whitening is not part of a benefits package for any insurance carrier that I'm aware of. So most offices create their own in-house whitening codes. And then the other key question behind that is, do you ever bill whitening to insurance? And then again, the answer is no.
I have not.
Yeah, most practice.
No, I have not.
So there have been some practices that have billed it to insurance, and it's a very common response by the insurance carrier. We do not cover cosmetics whatsoever. It's not part of the patient's benefits package. So those types of non-covered services where there's no CDT code, and it's best to not include insurance carrier as an obstacle for billing, or at least not insert themselves to confuse the patient. Those are things that you want to think about when you choose to bill a truly non-covered service code or procedure that doesn't even have a code, where you have to create a code. So maybe next time we'll elaborate more on when and when not to bill certain non-covered services that are not coded. But for the most part, if it is coded, Tessina and Angie, you're 100% correct in my opinion that you should always be billing those to insurance. Tessina, did you remember what you wanted to say?
No, it is so gone.
It's gone.
All right, we'll move on. Jordan has the next question.
Yeah. So, what is the best recommended appeals process?
Angie, did you want to take this, or do you want me to?
Written.
Or we can both.
We can tag team this. First, I would call, and there are lots of things and stuff that I would do to avoid getting the denial to begin with. If you submit enough information the first time, at least it's less likely to be denied. And then I think I would probably, the next step I would do is I would call and not just resubmit. You're not for sure exactly what it is. EOBs are pretty vague in what their verbiage is. And so I would call the insurance company would be my next step. How about you?
A lot of times, yeah. No, I agree with Angie. I mean, step one, right, is to avoid getting to that point. But let's be realistic. It's not always a valid appeal situation anyways. So when I have an insurance company that's denying something, when I know that I'm very diligent in sending all that information up front that needs to be to process the claim, then I look at it and I want to see if they're asking a valid question or if they're asking for nonsense and they're just purposely delaying the claim. So that I want to get that information beforehand. And then like Angie said, if you just reprocess it, especially if they're just doing it as nonsense, they're just going to kick it back out as a duplicate. They won't even look at it. So you have to call the insurance company and say, hey, look, I can see that you're denying this. I'm not sure why. I sent you all of this required documentation. And sometimes it could be just a really quick, simple fix that they just had a question on something, and you can give it to them right over the phone, and they'll get it reprocessed. Great. Other times they're being a bit more ridiculous, and that's when I like to send a nice little letter, and it'll be a very detailed appeal, but also stating that I do feel that they are delaying the claim and that they should be processing this claim in good faith, because I've already provided enough documentation to show that it's a legit claim. And so I kind of just like to throw that in there, because if that appeal should come back paid. If not, then I know I don't have to do anything else other than send it over to the insurance commissioner.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Tessina was quoted in an article that a nut job wrote back in February that outlines the steps on how to appeal and using the insurance commissioner. And the interesting thing, since that article was published, I've received a ton of emails from people that say, we've tried this and it actually works. So there's a lot of skepticism initially about using the insurance commissioner, but I got an EOB faxed over to me, of course, with the patient's information whited out from a client this morning. And the issue was the buildup was being denied. And he says, this is becoming more and more of an issue with my office. And on the notes section, I think it was note J that said that the buildup would be covered in situations where there's not enough tooth structure to retain the crown. And it's so funny. He said, I have all this evidence and narrative and things in writing that the buildup is necessary for crown retention, but the insurance commissioner requires you to make an attempt to appeal the insurance company first. See if they'll pay it, and most of the times they won't. Sometimes they pay the claim. A lot of times these days they'll just continue to play the delay tactic. The key thing in the appeal process, especially when what we're finding a lot of people saying, is that when we mention that if they choose to deny it again, then we're going to contact the insurance commissioner on behalf with the patient to have them have an independent review of the situation, because the patient does deserve to use their benefits that have already been paid for. So with that little threat, a lot of people are reporting that the insurance is paying for the claim before it gets to the insurance commissioner. But the nice thing about going to the insurance commissioner is that it seems to put a halt on all these issues with that particular insurance carrier. Maybe not indefinitely, but a lot of the problems tend to stop. Would you say that's still correct, Tessina, on your end?
Oh, yes. Oh, very much correct. Pretty quickly, like we talked about, several times before, is that you're going to be labeling your office as an office that's not going to be bullied. So even after sending one over, I think is even enough to kind of be like, okay, this office is not messing around. But definitely, if you've sent more than one claim over to the insurance commissioner, you're going to notice the next time that build-up goes through, it'll be paid rather than denied.
So how do you respond to the doctor that says, I just don't want my team to invest so much time doing that. I can have them do other things. What's your initial response to that, and on how to get them to not think that way?
I just kind of laugh.
Just laugh at his face.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
I mean, that's
now,
go ahead.
and then have less time to spend on it later and have fewer denied later.
Yes. And thanks for mentioning that.
Do you want to be swallowing the fee for the buildup, or do you want to get paid for the buildup? I mean, because otherwise these doctors, most of the time, they're not even turning around and charging the patient. They just write it off.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing that's important for the listeners to know is that, you just have to stand firm. You have to hold your ground, if you will. And I have lots of conversations with doctors, and what some of them are doing is they're just not billing the buildup as much as they used to, which I think is not the right move. When you do that, you're performing a procedure and you're not reporting it to the insurance carrier. That's great for the insurance carrier, but it doesn't do the industry a good service in terms of establishing the appropriate data on how many times a crown needs a buildup. Now, some dental consultants that work for insurance carriers say that they will never cover all buildups for a practice that bills out a buildup every single time there's a crown seat. And I'm not a clinician. I don't really know the data, but I know for the most part, a lot of our clients say that at least one out of every two teeth, two crowns need to build up, and sometimes it's more. You just never know. But the reality is if it really is a buildup and it follows the CDT definition, it should be sent out to insurance with good narrative, good evidence that the buildup was required, and then just don't back down. If the insurance company denies it, fight it and fight it hard. And what Tessina and Angie are saying is that it'll save you a lot of money in the long run, having to appeal all these unnecessary claims in the future, especially if you get the insurance company to make a decision and a ruling in your favor and on behalf of the patient as well. So this is excellent stuff. I don't think we have time to go into the military, the MetLife conversion to United Concordia, but I know that's something that a lot of our listeners want to cover. Tessa and Angie, do you have any closing thoughts on things that we talked about so far?
Ben, one of the things I wanted to say about the appeal is I've always found that it is pretty beneficial too when you're appealing something to inform the patient and have the patient also can contact the insurance company and know that they are also looking into it. Because sometimes the patient can get further than what we can get.
That's right.
Right. They're aware of what is going on with their stuff and what it is that they needed to have done. And sometimes a little bit of effort on their side is beneficial also.
That's a good point. And that's absolutely true.
I agree with that.
Every time I hear an office report to me that when the patients get involved in that process, and sometimes it's difficult to get them involved, but when they do, it tends to move things along a lot quicker. Tessa, you had another comment?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I've talked to a few doctors who will say, oh, no, I don't want to rock the boat, or, well, I don't want to do anything that the insurance company doesn't allow me to do. And they've said, I don't want to do anything illegal. I was like, no, it's not illegal. What they're doing is illegal. But it is,
Yeah, that's true.
the insurance company has done such a good job at bullying that people are afraid to step up and fight. And they are thinking that we're actually doing something that's not appropriate to do. And I don't know how they've done this, but they've been quite skilled at it. So I just want to make sure people understand that this is legal to fight back, and we have rights that are actually protecting us and protecting our patients, and that if we keep bowing down and keep continuing to let them, these offices are going to keep suffering. The doctors are the ones who are suffering. I'm an office manager, if I work for a doctor, I'm not suffering, but the doctor is. So take a minute, take the time, stand up for yourself, and take back control in your office.
I love it.
And your patients are suffering also.
That's right.
Right. Your patients are also suffering too. They've paid their premiums. They have a right to the benefit that is theirs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has a ripple effect in the industry, how insurance carriers are treating the dental practices, and perhaps what I'm about to say next is going to inspire another lawsuit. So be prepared here, Jordan.
Nice, another one.
But I was talking to an owner of a group practice who's not a dentist, who runs, I'm not going to say where, but it's a good friend of mine. And I know doctors don't, they feel that owners of group practices that are not dentists are a threat to them. And whether that's true or not, for this particular group, they claim to do quality care, and quality is their focus. And they even say that the problem with them and the perception that they have from the dentist in their community is they're viewed as the devil, because most group practices and corporate groups have this perception of doing very poor quality care. Like Aspen Dental, for instance, which is public record. A year or so ago, Aspen Dental gets sued, and long story short, there was just a lot of evidence that they were overdiagnosing treatment and doing things that weren't necessary, dentistry that wasn't necessary for the patients. And so those are in the court records as to the findings. And this friend of mine was saying that that's the problem with insurance carriers, is that they're making it more and more difficult for everybody. That now there's a lot of cutting of corners that are going on in an effort for practices to remain sustainable financially, as they just simply can't. They have to play the insurance game, and unfortunately it's resulted in cutting corners on the clinical end of things. So if there's a message that we can send today, or hopefully everybody knows, that our purpose and message, even with Tessina and Angie, is to make sure that you fight the right fight, and engage in the right type of legal activity in combating these insurance carriers in an effort to really protect the financial integrity of care so that there is no cutting of corners. So, Jordan, do you have any closing thoughts, buddy, before we let our listeners get on their way today?
No, man, it's been a good episode. I did have one thought. We were talking, I think, last week about what happened in California. That's a good example of the dentists over there standing up for, for themselves and fighting back with the insurance companies. What do you have any? Yeah, with Delta. I don't know much about that, but I've wanted to learn kind of more what happened over there in California. If you have a few thoughts there, Ben.
Yeah, Dr. Chris Salerno from Dental Economics, the chief editor, put an article.
Oh, I read his article. Yeah.
So that was just a situation where Delta Dental was reducing rates with insufficient notice to the doctors and insufficient justification, where the CDA, California Dental Association, and a bunch of other groups got involved to correct that. And I think over the last 3 years, that since they've been trying to battle this, finally a ruling was made in favor of the CDA and the dentists in California. And that resulted in Delta Dental, they're being forced to reimburse hundreds, if not a few thousand dentists, over $34 million in payments for what they did a few years ago. So that's good news for the industry. That's a victory in the industry in terms of other associations and other interest groups, even ours, knowing that you can engage in a fight against what's perceived as the 800-pound bully or gorilla, and you can win. You don't necessarily have to have billions of dollars in your pocket or billions of dollars worth of lobbying funds. The reality is that judges and the legal community is really looking at the issues in the right way in favor of clinical dentistry and good quality care. And I think that's what was the result of that lawsuit boiled down to just that. So anyway, cool. We need to see more things like that occur in the industry.
Yeah, I loved reading Chris's article, and I think I'm with you there. We need to see more of that in the industry.
Yep. So Tessina and Angie, thank you so much for being on. We're gonna.
Thank you for having me.
We love having you both on. So the next time we do need to get to the military discussion on the United Concordia takeover of both the active duty and dependent care. So for those of you that are not aware, MetLife is going away. MetLife has lost the contract for dependent care, and that's being switched over to United Concordia. So there's a separate fee schedule now that covers United Concordia active duty, United Concordia military dependents, and even TRICARE on the Delta Dental side, TRICARE programs that see military retirees. There are now separate fee schedules in multiple states that are severely reduced. So we'll bring Tessina and Angie on during the next episode to discuss that and provide some solutions to help. But everybody, thank you so much. It was a great episode. I appreciate all your time and wonderful and great expertise.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you. And that's it, folks. We'd like to thank you, the listener, for making this podcast happen. We are a young podcast, but we are growing at a fast rate. In 3 months alone, we've captured over 20,000 listeners, and our support is growing day by day. One way that you can show your support for our podcast is to simply tell a friend about us. If there is an episode that you enjoyed, feel free to share it. Also, if there is a certain insurance-related topic that we haven't covered just yet, we'd love to hear about that. Please email us and send us a request at help@veritasdentalresources.com. Veritas is spelled V as in Victor, E-R-I-T as in Tom, A-S. help@veritasdentalresources.com, and we'll make sure to include that request in our next and future episodes. Again, thank you for your support, and we wish you the best of success.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody feeling warm.